Hello, and welcome to this episode of The Richness of Evolving. Today I have my very good friend with me, Robin Box. So the show is about evolving, right? So how to live a richer, happier, and healthier lifestyle. Robin and I have been friends for years, and I'm very lucky to have her in my life, and I'm very happy I get to share her with you today. Robin is one of those people that are constantly evolving, both in her career and personally, and I'm so happy we have her here today to share some of her experiences. Hi, Robin. Welcome.
Hi, Sylvia. Thank you so much for having me. This is fun.
So great to have you. I cannot wait. It's going to be a great discussion.
It always is. It never fails. When we're together, we both grow, and I think that is a real tribute to how you're evolving as well, Sylvia.
I love it. And I think that leads to, right, I think so many times we talk about, well, I have to change and I have to, and it's not so much really about changing, is it? It's about evolving, right? Because you don't want to change everything. You want to keep what's working and you just want to evolve the areas that you feel that you want to improve on.
That's beautiful. Yes. And there's so much about us that is beautiful, and I think we don't look at that enough. You know, I think there's this idea of like, oh, it'll be like in my ego. But there is a beautiful relationship that we can have with ourselves, and it really is about being our own best friend and learning to have compassionate empathy for ourselves before we can even do that for other people. And that is really a lifetime journey, but you hop on the train wherever you are, and then you learn something, and from that experience, which feels so good to like grow from a negative space to find an opening, and then walk into a more positive way of being in this world, and then you see things differently, and it's like it just makes you want to do more.
No, I agree. I was having a conversation yesterday with an attorney friend of mine from California, and very interesting, and he was sharing how he was really being very tough on himself lately. And I made him laugh, but I mean, I said, would you ever, when you're doing that, think about it, would you ever talk to a friend that way, right? Because the reality is, if we talk to our friends the way we talk to ourselves sometimes, they wouldn't be our friend. Right, isn't that interesting?
Yes, and even if we think the thoughts about ourselves, if we thought those about our friends too, because there is this idea of generosity that we can give each other. But again, I think, there's three types of empathy. There's affective empathy, cognitive empathy, and compassionate empathy. And cognitive empathy is when we understand what somebody's going through, or we even understand what we're going through. It's like, oh, I get it. I'm going through a hard time because A, B, and C. So we understand it. And then there's affective empathy, where it's like, oh, she's going through that poor thing, and we really feel what they're going through. And then there's compassionate empathy, when we combine those two. So we are aware of what they're going through, we feel it, and yet we're tempered into action. We're not too caught up in the cognitive, thinking about them without feeling it. But when we combine those two, so we're thoughtful and we're heartful, and then the actions we take towards ourselves or towards each other ends up being beautiful.
Yeah, no, and that's interesting, and I would love your perspective on this. I was doing one of those advanced yoga classes, and the teacher talked a lot about when we have friends going through something, and how our inclination is to say, oh, I'm so sorry, and to rub their arm or rub their back. And she actually said that that's not really the way to handle it, that's not appropriate, that the better way to handle it is just to be there and let them be in their space and let them be uncomfortable. Because by you rubbing them or telling them how sorry you are, it makes them subconsciously feel like there's something wrong with them, right? And we don't really want to make anyone feel like there's something wrong with them. We really want to just acknowledge, right, and hold space for what they're going through.
That's huge, Sylvia. And a lot of times we think we need to have a certain action, but our presence alone, and it's not easy to just be with someone and be present without an agenda, but if we can do that, that is such a gift. I work with kids and teachers and adults sometimes, but one of the things that I heard, which I loved when somebody is visibly going through something, is to ask them, do you want to be heard? Do you want to be helped? Or do you want to be hugged? So you're giving them agency to get what they need, which is such a beautiful thing. And along with just being with somebody and not saying anything. But sometimes, you feel like you need to do something. So asking, what is it that you need right now, gives them the opportunity to be, also gives them, it empowers them because they're making a choice now, where a lot of times when we're going through something, we don't feel agency to make a decision or to make a choice. We feel stuck. So just making a little choice like, I need a hug, or can you just listen? You don't have to fix me, just listen, is such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, no, I think that is right. I love that, and it's so true, right? So, but I think so many times there's a part of us that wants to heal and help, and I think we have to remember though too, even though we're coming from a loving place, I think you're right. I think it's about asking the other person, help me understand what you need. Help me understand how I can support you right now.
Love that, and, yes, and, as the improv person, yes, and we can ask that of ourselves too.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? So I heard the other day that you'll never feel lonely if you like the one you're with. And I thought, oh my God, that is so beautiful. Because I didn't like myself for a lot of my life, Sylvia. And it's not a good place to be, because then you're always seeking ways to get relief. And then I threw a lot of mental health work on myself, and meditation, and doing different workshops. I started to develop this ability to regulate my emotions and listen to myself, and I started enjoying my own company, which is that's evolving, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It is evolving, and that brings me back to that song. When you say that, reminds me of, remember that song, Love the One You're With?
Yeah, yeah.
Right? It's just...
if you can't be with the one you love the one you're with. Yeah.
Yes, so true, so true. Yeah, and it's interesting for me to hear you, say that you didn't like yourself, because you come out and you're always just so lovely whenever you are present.
That's very kind of you.
No, and I love that you always share where you are and what you're doing, and the different modalities that you might be using to improve. And I thought that you would be ideal today to talk about evolving, because I think for you as an individual, you truly are the essence of evolving. You
oh my
evolve
gosh.
all the time. You do.
Well, so just so it's really clear, I had a lot of trauma as a child, and I didn't even know that I had trauma. There's something called the ACEs scale, the Acute Childhood Experience Scale, and Adverse Childhood Experience Scale. And I was on a call with someone who trains people, trauma training, and we all took the test anonymously. It's just 10 questions, and I took it, and the scores came up on a chart, and she said, oh, someone's a 6 in this group, and I just want you to know that whatever we're going to talk about now, things are going to start really, really hitting you hard, and I want you to know that there's trauma wisdom as well, which is when you realize that you've been traumatized from things like certain kinds of abuse or neglect or death of a parent or divorce, all these things, there's a number of things that you check off, that your whole life is now through that lens of trauma until you recognize it and get the help that you need to heal from it. So that's been my journey for the past 5 years. I know it's like 5 years, my whole life I was seeing myself as unlikable in lots of ways. So that's why my evolving has come later in my life. But I was always growing. It's just like this was like a lightning growth wake-up call, and it's been very interesting since then.
Yeah, no, I like that. I was actually at a conference last week, and I thought it was interesting. I was speaking to the person sitting next to me, and somehow meditation came up. And she said, oh, well, I hear, or, that there's some negative things that can happen from meditation, like things come up and trauma, and people have to go into therapy. And I'm like, well, yes and no, right? Because yes, things come up, but those things are coming up because they exist, right? So I said another way to look at it is, meditation is a safe place, a safe environment with yourself, right? To connect with those feelings, right? Because we're trying to quiet the mind so we can hear what's going on with the heart. And yes, it might be painful and there may be therapy needed, but I think that we are so much better off addressing those things on our time, our term, versus waiting for something to happen that can trigger it. And then not only are you having this event that you're dealing with, right, that you're having to negotiate, but then you're also having to deal with this past trauma that's coming up.
Exactly. I think that's so well said, because there's this idea that some people are good at meditating. And I've been meditating since I was 19, pretty regularly for the past 10 years, every day, almost every day. And there are some days where I'm like, I can't sit here for one more minute. I am going to explode. And sometimes I get up and I am compassionate towards myself about that. But many times I just say, just stay. Just stay. And I stretch myself a little more and sit with that uncomfortable feeling, because it's an uncomfortable feeling that comes up. Shame, or it's, why did I send that email? Oh my God, the world's gonna end, And when all of those things are really brought into self-compassion, that compassionate empathy for yourself, it's like, it's okay. It's okay. Yes. Sometimes I was just telling you the other day that I want, during the eclipse, we were talking about like what would be something that you want to grow now that this eclipse is here and this cool energy of the eclipse. And Sylvia and I love how we get deep about things because we both are on this path of evolving. And I said, I want to be more transparent. And you said, oh, you're so transparent. And I said, no, even more, even more. Like, because we have this ability to hide from ourselves the things we don't like about ourselves, because it's painful.
Right.
It's painful to see that we lie or that we steal or that we cheat. We don't want to be that person. And yet from habitual patterns, sometimes we lie, sometimes we might steal, sometimes we might cheat. Not in big ways where we go to jail, but I'm just saying in little ways that disturb the force within. And so sitting and saying, why did I lie about that? It could be a simple thing like, not wanting to go out because you're not feeling well, but saying, oh no, I have to take care of my mother or something. Right. Why don't you just say, you know what, I'm really tired, I want to stay in. So these habitual things that we do, there's nothing really wrong with them. It's so beautiful to be clean and clear and compassionate towards ourselves, and then we can extend it to others.
No, I agree. And, part of this discussion really came about, too. I was talking to the crew that I get to work with on this set, and we were talking about, kind of a different way of evolving, too, right? So we were talking now about evolving, wanting to change ourselves, but sometimes we have to evolve because the people in our lives are growing and changing. And the discussion came up with, it's so, how do you kind of reinvent your life, recreate yourself for the new norm when your kids are growing and leaving, right? So this role, this person who you were now needs to evolve and change and move into a whole new different realm.
Yes, and we are in phases of our life over and over and over again when we're challenged to do that, whether it's going off to college or it's getting a job or it's having children, all these things like affect huge changes in us. And that's a great opportunity to grow and to say, I work at a private school in West Hartford on Wednesdays. It's mostly for kids who are on the autistic spectrum, and I teach improv and mindfulness and cognitive awareness to them. And we co-create a lot of things together, and it is just so interesting to talk to them about the strategies that they have to help them get through changes and to get through difficult times. And because they're going to face things as they go through life, and because they are they're not neurotypical, they might react to things in life differently. So strategies are so great to use. And I love the discussions we have and the playfulness. And I was just telling some of the crew here today that one of the boys, he's about 8, always likes to co-create games with me. So I'll come up with this something and he'll say, but what if we do this? And I'm like, let's do it. And we do. And we get into this zone where it's almost like time stands still because and there's so much joy that comes into it. So I was going to do a mindfulness exercise and he said, can I make up one? I said, sure, go for it. So he said, okay, everybody make a heart. And everybody went like this. There are about 10 of us in the room. And he said, okay, everybody breathe in, break the heart. He said, breathe out, build the heart back, heal it. Break the heart, breathe out, breathe in. Mm-hmm. It was just so beautiful. And I think that we're always challenged by the phases of our life. And if we can have things that root us, that center us, that ground us, that we've learned along the way, we can rely on those.
Yeah, no, that's really nice. But yes, and true. And I guess it's building, right? Continue to build that toolbox that you're putting things in to help you navigate. Because I know even like with me, with the kids starting to change and going off to school,
Yeah.
and and it's nice, right? Because if you're doing things or things are working, they really should be evolving, moving on. But then it's again, how do I evolve my role, right? Because my role as a parent changes, my identity changes a little bit, right? Because I'm just a different kind of a parent at that point. I'm a parent of young adults.
Did you go through a grieving process when you first left? Because I know I did.
Yeah, of course, of course.
And to allow that and to go through that, it's
Right.
not easy.
No, it's not. And it's just that acceptance that life has changed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even though they come back for breaks and they visit when they can, it's never the same.Ey're not like under your roof anymore. Like life as you knew it changed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's, again, also surrendering, right, to the new norm.
Yeah.
And also knowing that it's not bad. It's an evolution, right?
And there's that little period between things aren't like they used to be to things are the new normal. And in between, I like to think of it as the I wonder phase. Like, I wonder what it's going to be like, because we don't know, and I wonder gives so much space for curiosity and exploration. And I think that is a key to that resilience, is wondering, well, I wonder what that's going to be like. Because it doesn't necessarily have to be bad, although the grieving process cannot be denied either.
Right. Right. And I think isn't it a combination though of wondering what it's going to be like, or also setting intentions? This is what I like the new norm to be like, right?
Yeah.
So I think you feel a little bit more in control, and I think we like to be in control. I like to know that we,
Sure.
right, are setting our path.
Absolutely. So it is that combination of you don't know. Here's what I'd like it to be. I mean, you and I both did an action board for the new year. Setting. We cut out all these symbols and of what we'd like to happen in our lives, for this year. So you set that, and you take joy in imagining how that could happen, or not even how it could happen, because we don't know how things really happen. We take steps along the way, and then it seems like magically it appears, but it's not really magically. It is because we've set it in motion, I was just talking to a friend who said that she's switching from being a journalist to being a keynote speaker. And she had this amazing conversation with a friend who does that for a living. And he said, you'd be so good at that. And she was like, you know what, I think I would be. And all of a sudden, she got a call from someone asking her to speak at a conference. She said, how did that happen? But I think you set something in motion, and then you're talking about it. It goes kind of through the channels that be, and then things start happening for you, which is really fun.
It is fun. And I loved working on that vision board with you, and I agree that it's not the how. I think so many times we get stuck on the how, and we don't want to imagine or put something out there because we're not sure of how it can happen. And that's not really up to us, right? The how comes from the universe bringing it together. I think what is up to us, though, is to identify some of the things that we want, which is the beauty of the vision board.
Well said. I love that. Yeah.
Thank you. So what else? I mean, when you think about, again, leaving the audience behind with some things to think about. I know that you had some thoughts around that. What else comes to mind that's important?
I think there's, knowing that your nervous system reacts to things without your permission. We have that fight, flight, or freeze part of our nervous system, and it's going to be triggered by different things. And if you could just take a breath when you start to feel your emotions getting triggered, and you can feel it because there's body signals. There's something called interoception, which is tuning into what's going on inside of your body. It's the same process that toddlers use to be potty trained. They have to start paying attention, right? So it's physical sensations, but it's also emotional sensations, because our emotions trigger physiological responses. When you're walking down a street at night in a strange city and you hear footsteps behind you, you're automatically going to have, you're going to start getting tense. Your heart might start beating faster. You're not telling your body to do that. If you can start recognizing those things, and then rather than react to it or get scared by it, if you can just take a breath and drop your awareness into your body. So the response is so much more compassionate.
Of course, yes.
So I love that. And I love that recognizing when fear comes in, because fear is the thief of the present moment, right? Because fear is about what's going to happen or what you did before and the consequences. So like when a fear thought starts coming in, I start labeling it. Oh, that's fear. And then I take a breath. And a lot of times, I don't let fear steal my happiness, my joy, because I've recognized it. I've done the work of taking a breath, which calms down your nervous system. There's a good reason to take a breath.
Absolutely.
It triggers a response in our parasympathetic nervous system that says, no, all's well.
Yeah.
When it wants to, do the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn thing. If you can manage it, it's one of the only parts of our body that we can't control our heartbeat. We can't control, our blood flowing through our veins, but we can manage our breath. So why not use it to evolve?
I love that. I think that is a lovely note to start to wrap up on. I really do. And then, I wanted to talk a little bit about, we were having the conversation the other day too, in terms of, with evolving comes surrendering, right? So many times, I heard somebody use the expression when you're supposed to make a change or it's time to make a change, but you keep hitting the snooze button, right?
I've never heard that.
And then wasn't that a fabulous analogy? Yes. And then all of a sudden you've missed, and now it's a
now
big
you're
deal,
late,
right? Now something's happened.
Yeah.
And then you and I talked about it from a different realm where, a lot of our pain and suffering comes from holding on and not wanting the change and not wanting to evolve. But the beauty comes again, right, from when you surrender, right? So surrendering is key, and that expression, going with the flow, I think is very meaningful, right, when you really think about it. And I think it is about flowing. And, I just love what you said about fear, because I think that as we have many, many, many emotions, I think we all have two ruling emotions, and it's love and fear. And I think, we get very off-kiltered if we're not feeling love, or we're feeling rejected on love, or if we're feeling that somebody is, right, giving us love and we're feeling that we're in a different place. And I think fear is one of the things that I think you're right, is very difficult to navigate, but we can. But we can,
and it is, there are wonderful practices that you can learn. There's, one size doesn't fit all, so there's many ways that you can learn, and you got to find what's right for you. That's why, do you want to be heard, helped, or hugged? In a way, is giving choice is really important for anyone to figure out. Well, how can I manage my emotions? And the thing is that we can change our brain, because the patterns that have been programmed into our brain are just patterns.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Robin, thank you so much for being here today. And will you just share with everybody the name? I know you published a book.
Oh, yes. It's Social Eyes Together. And it's on my website, which is socialeyes.org, sociial-eyes.org. And there's lots of techniques on there that you can choose from for mindfulness. It's divided into sections where you can choose a lot of different ways to manage your emotions. And yeah, so keep on doing this beautiful work, Sylvia, that you're doing. Thank you for this.
Oh, well, thank you. And thank you for being a friend and in my life. And thank you for sharing with everyone here today.
My pleasure.
Great to see you, Robin.
Thanks, Sylvia.